Okay, Assalamualaikum and hello. My name is Siti FATIHAH binti RAMLI, number metric 278299. So I want to present this slide. The first is introduction. What is the prejudice? The word prejudice can also refer to unfounded or pagan-held beliefs, and it may apply to any unreasonable attitude that is unusually resistant to rational influence. Prejudice is an assumption or an opinion about someone's supply based on that person's membership to particular group. For example, people can be prejudiced against someone else of a different ethnicity, gender, or religion. Prejudice is limited to an unjustifiable negative trait against a group and its individual members. Prejudice is a negative behavior that leads a group to individualism based on the limitation or inaccuracies of information about the group.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Syakirah binti Ishak. My metric number is 279326. Now I will carry on the presentation by discussing about types of prejudice, example of prejudice situation, and theories of prejudice. Prejudice is a general parable that can be divided into several types. Usually, it does not focus on one group only because prejudice can happen to anyone. Few examples of prejudice are sexism, religious prejudice, ageism, homophobia, and xenophobia. Now, I will explain each of them. First of all, sexism is prejudice towards someone's gender. Is an act where one feels inferior toward the others because of their gender. It can be categorized into three types, which is hostile sexism, benevolent sexism, and ambivalent sexism. Hostile sexism is the feeling inherent in a person to hate the other gender. In this situation, women and people with feminine traits are often being the victims of hostile sexism. As examples, harassing people who defy gender norms and burning at sexual assault victims instead of punishing the assaulter. Second, as for benevolent sexism, it is an act where seeing women as an incapable, fragile, and weak human being that need protection from the other. It allows people to restrict someone's freedom and making their own choices, which will ruin someone's confidence. Example of benevolent sexism is determining the role of individuals according to their gender. Lastly, for ambivalent sexism, is the result from the combination of hostile and benevolent sexism. People with ambivalent sexism usually praise conventional feminine behavior while unladylike behavior is condemned. Next is religious prejudice, where some person have the tendency to lord on an individual or a group of people who has different religious beliefs. The most famous type of religious prejudice are Islamophobia and antisemitism. Often, this hostility exists due to mis- and misleading information or stereotypes about one's religion or belief itself. Examples of religious prejudice are when someone looks doubtfully at the individual who is wearing head covering, like hijab for Muslim and yarmulke for Jewish. There are also a group of people who have been treated unfairly because of their age. The easiest example to understand ageism is when an adult underestimating the abilities and capabilities of young people in some areas simply because their age has not yet reached the mature age limit according to them. Prejudice toward age also happens to old people, where society always sees them as a group of people who is not productive anymore. If this is not cured, it will result in a person experiencing mental health problems when they get older. As for homophobia, it is a prejudice towards someone's sexual orientation. People who are in lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT community are commonly become victims of homophobia. Same cases as religious prejudice, homophobia happen because of some misleading information about them. Some believe that homosexual is immoral behavior and opposite in with cultural norms. Someone who is homosexual sometimes being treated differently, as example, being shunned or ignored away. Last but not least, xenophobia is a type of prejudice or fear toward people from other countries, either a stranger or a foreigner. Typical sign of a person who has xenophobia is they tend to feeling uncomfortable around an individual or a group of people who has different skin color, culture, racial or religion as them, to the extent they refuse to be friends or associated with that group. Someone with xenophobia can get called out in hate crime if they do not control their emotions and sanity. Now, we will moving on to the examples of prejudice situation. Prejudice happens everywhere and anywhere that we could think. It can happen to someone else or even ourselves can experience it if we are unlucky enough. So there are a few prejudice situations that we all can use as examples. First is Mad Men era. Mad Men is a drama series that be introduced to the audience in 2007, portrayed nostalgia of social life in the 1960s. It got a lot of criticism because the show glorifies misogynist and prejudicial thinking against women, where they were seen as less dominant as men. There are a lot of ads that discriminate against women are displayed on the era too. One of it says that show her is a man's world. Next, prejudicial thinking against immigrants in Malaysia during pandemic. In the middle of pandemic crisis, which is on May 2020, Malaysian government has made mass arrests of undocumented migrants. By using public safety as an excuse to arrest immigrants, it will not only pose a risk to Malaysian government's effort in curbing the spread of COVID-19 virus, in fact, it will also be able to further strengthen the prejudice against immigrants in the country. Furthermore, on 2020, a worldwide campaign about Black Lives Matter (BLM) has been held after a very tragic incident involved late George Floyd after a police officer knelt on his neck and killed him. This might happen because white-skinned blacks are always involved in crime and violence than their own races. This kind of prejudicial thinking can lead to the emergence of racism. Not only that, this will also result in a sense of inferiority and discomfort among black people. Last but not least, according to the findings of an extensive AARP workplace poll, nearly 2 out of every 3 workers aged 45 and up have witnesses or experiences age discrimination on the job. Ageism occurs in the workplace and is likely to older employees because there is a thinking that older people are no longer productive. On the other hand, young employees are often humiliated and not given the confidence to do the work just because they are young and inexperienced. Next, we will talk about theories of prejudice. There are a few theories that we can use to justify on how prejudice can be developed. First is social reflection theory. Social reflection theory proves that prejudicial behavior can be developed as early as a kid. From this theory point of view, a person has a prejudicial attitude against certain ethnicity or group happen because of the society around him. Either it influenced by family and friends who share their racial beliefs, or by mass media who promotes prejudicial ideas and by using entertainment shows. Mad Men era, for example, also contribute to prejudice development among society by promoting misogyny and sexism ideas. Through an entertainment show, it will encourage people to normalize it in the present, even if it is an outdated and inappropriate stereotype. Second is social cognitive development theory, who explains that the development of prejudice in children is normal because it is influenced by their cognitive development. There are 2 different ways to explain this theory, either by cognitive continuum or social continuum. Cognitive continuum solely based on children's effective response to differentiate the difference between people. young children tend to feel afraid of things that are familiar to them. It shows that children will development prejudicial thinking naturally from their own judgment on what is familiar or unfamiliar to them. While social continuum is started in earlier age where children will recognize their physical difference from the others, such as hair and skin color, and also gender. They will also be preferred to associate more with group of people that have the similar traits as them. This is the most crucial stage of children's prejudicial development. But in the age of 8 to 12 years old, they start to learn that even though they have different physical traits, they still have some internal similarity among the others, such as thoughts and goals. At this stage, children will start to see the difference between a person rather than a group. Children who evaluate in terms of individual difference more than group difference are likely to have lower prejudicial behavior. So that's all from me. I will pass to my friends next. Thank you.
The next is factor influences of prejudice. There are several factors that influence prejudice, which is personality, education and status, parental education, politics and economic, communication, and also social relation. The first is personality. Individual personality will also be seen in the formation of social prejudice. The personality of person who is influenced by this prejudice has negative attitudes such as feeling suspicious, dogmatic thinking, and also patterning. This trait is the trait that negative prejudice will tend to a person sees and prejudice that are not good toward others. The next is education and status. Education and status greatly affect the prejudice, where the higher a person's education and the higher the status he has will affect the others more easily. Third is parent education. Education from parent is very important to children. This is because when there is a lack of good upbringing from the parent, the children are usually influenced by negative things. In this case, parents have traditional values that can be said to serve as a family ideology that will influence social prejudice. Okay, the next, politics and economy. Politics and economy often have a major impact on the formation of social prejudice. Politics and economic influence have caused many social prejudice against other groups such as minority group. Okay, community. The community also has an important role in providing good information, and the attitude component will be greatly influenced by mass media such as radio, television, and of which will affect the formation of social prejudice in a person. The last one is social relationship. The social relation. Social relations is a medium in reducing or enhancing the formation of social prejudice in relation to the learning process as a cause of social prejudice in others. Then, in this case, parents are considered the main teachers because the influence is created at the modeling stage at the age of children, while instilling social prejudice behavior to other groups. So, this is several of the factor influence of prejudice to our.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NABILAH binti AHMAD. My metric number is 28.34 and I will present about effects of prejudice and steps to overcome prejudice. So, prejudice from someone or something sacrifice feel inferior, sufficiently human. When human beings happen depreciate by reminder of something, their pride endure and they stop bothersome to make or become better themselves. Prejudice can frequently bring about domineering and additional forms of bad. So, the first effect of prejudice is poor performance. Prejudice people, the one exist unprotected to strata about their group care for to observe those stereotypes. Frequently chief to weak efficiency. An idea named stereotype danger give a reason for this wonder. Stereotype warning happens so forceful that every now and then yours act not even need expected one of a stereotype. Second effect is physical health problem. It concedes possibility rich as no surprise that yes happen thanks to those the one knowledge each. On average, lacking color male human life about 7 age old protected than dark male human, and 18 years assume more open to attack to assassins, physical question and terminal disease. This perhaps specific different exists the direct result of a span of animate being assistant of stress. So, third effect is mental health problem. Discrimination exists innately, tense and stress increase a personal risk for cultivate cavity, tension and very much alike concerning the mind physical challenge. Such abuse happen important risk determinant for post-traumatic stress and crime permission in addition to immediate fashionable additional concerning the mind mental wellness challenge. First effect, drug use. Discrimination grant permission happen individual to the determinant that helps increase this number, and last effect is self-sabotage. When human beings doubt their power to act well, they grant permission, cultivate reason to make clear weak conduct that don't harm their pride. One help in common machine is self-sabotage. Then, how to overcome prejudice issue? Prejudice can create human being more open to attack to form of base to a degree set crime and different pain. It can in addition to weaken concerning the body and concerning the mind physically. In this issue, we use therapy to overcome prejudice issue because therapy can support human being to overcome prejudice. Therapy can in addition to help human beings overcome their own prejudice so they can nurture deeper various links. Find a way surrogate to the welfare of mankind, able counselor to help unfavorably. Then therapy can help human beings accompanying harmful stance overcome those stance and have as one's goal enduring public change. And last one, therapy also can change life and make or become better classification. So that's all from me. Thank you.
In conclusion, this prejudice attitude is not present in one country only, but is present throughout the country. Social prejudice is caused by the learning process. It also arises through the existence of hatred between individuals or groups. For example, between the majority group and the minority group. Therefore, the factors influencing social prejudice are factors of interest of certain individuals or groups who will gain their benefit or sustenance of they cultivate social prejudice. Such social prejudice are used to exploit other groups for the progress of individuals or group themselves. That's all for me, and thank you.